Deep in the heart of Blackthorn Forest, a place untouched by modern civilization, an ancient secret lay buried beneath the tangled roots. The villagers nearby whispered about the cursed land, a place where trees spoke in hushed voices and vines slithered like living things. No one dared to venture beyond the first line of twisted oaks, except for those who never returned. Dr. Evelyn Carter, a botanist fascinated by forgotten flora, dismissed the rumors as local superstition. Drawn by tales of an unidentified plant species with an eerie ability to grow overnight, she set off with a team of researchers. What began as a simple scientific expedition soon unraveled into a nightmare beyond comprehension. Evelyn and her team, Marcus, a geologist, Diane, a biologist, and Henry, their guide, arrived at the village on the forest's edge. The locals refused to engage in conversation about the forest, their eyes dark with unspoken fear. A wrinkled old woman approached them as they prepared to leave, gripping Evelyn's arm with a strength that belied her frail appearance. "You should not go there," she rasped. "The forest listens, and it remembers." As dusk fell, the team pressed forward into the eerie quiet of the woods, the dense canopy above blotting out the fading light. Strange markings on trees hinted at something unnatural, and the deeper they went, the more the air felt thick with an unseen presence. Whispers slithered through the leaves, though no wind stirred the branches. Something was watching them. A day into their expedition, the team found the rumored plant, a pulsating, vine-like organism that exuded a faint glow. Its tendrils seemed to respond to their movements, twitching when they drew near. When Diane took a sample, the vines shuddered violently as if in protest. That night, the whispers grew louder, forming indistinct words in the darkness. Something moved just beyond the firelight, but whenever they shone a flashlight, there was nothing there. Sleep became impossible. Henry spoke of an uneasy feeling, a pressure in his chest, like unseen eyes boring into his very soul. He swore he heard voices calling his name, beckoning him deeper into the trees. Henry, their guide, was the first to go missing. His sleeping bag lay empty, his footprints leading toward the forbidden heart of the forest. Searching for him, they found his tattered jacket hanging from a branch, covered in black sap. Marcus insisted they leave immediately, but Evelyn refused. The discovery was too important. The moment she touched one of the whispering vines, a deep, guttural voice echoed in her mind. "You belong to us now." The ground trembled beneath their feet. Vines slithered in the darkness, and the rustling leaves whispered unintelligible warnings. Diane clutched her arms, shivering despite the humid air. "We shouldn't be here," she whispered. "We need to go." As panic set in, the forest began to shift. Paths they had taken disappeared, replaced by walls of interwoven roots. The trees seemed to breathe, their bark pulsating with a sickly rhythm. The whispers grew into a chorus, pleading, demanding, warning. Diane collapsed, clutching her head, screaming that the voices were inside her skull. Her nose bled as she clawed at her ears, trying to silence them. Then, she, too, was gone, swallowed by the very vines they had come to study. Evelyn and Marcus searched for her, but found only her flashlight, flickering beside a strange, human-shaped growth in the vines. The more they looked, the more they saw, faces, hands, remnants of those who had disappeared before them. Marcus and Evelyn ran, leaving their equipment behind. But no matter which direction they turned, they always ended up back at the clearing where the whispering growth thrived. The plant had grown, its tendrils now reached for them, twitching in anticipation. Marcus tried to set it on fire, but the flames were smothered before they could spread. The vines coiled around his legs, pulling him into the earth as he screamed for Evelyn to run. His cries were soon silenced. She fell to her knees, exhausted, realizing the forest itself was alive. The trees swayed without wind, the roots pulsed like veins, and the whispers, The whispers were inside her now. Alone, Evelyn's mind unraveled. The whispers became clearer, telling her stories of those who had come before. Scientists, explorers, wanderers, all had fed the growth, their souls entwined within its roots. "You are ours," the voices cooed. "Join us." She saw faces in the bark of trees, Henry, Diane, Marcus, all staring, pleading for release. But there was no escape. The forest was alive, and it had chosen her. Days blurred together. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but the forest provided nothing safe to eat. The water from the nearby stream tasted bitter, tinged with the essence of decay. Evelyn stumbled upon an ancient altar entwined with the plant. Symbols carved into the stone pulsed with a sickly green light. At its center, a grotesque figure, neither plant nor human, watched her with hollow eyes. It beckoned. Memories flooded her mind, not her own, but those of the entity. It had been here before humanity, feeding, growing, waiting. The ritual had to be completed. One more sacrifice, one more voice added to the whispers. She resisted, but the vines gripped her tighter. They slithered beneath her skin, merging with her veins. She screamed as the transformation began, her flesh turning to bark, her fingers splitting into roots. She could still think, still feel, but soon she would be part of the growth, an eternal whisper in the cursed forest. In one final act of defiance, she tried to carve a message into the altar stone, tried to warn anyone who might come after. But the vines would not let her. They coiled around her fingers, guiding her hand. And instead of a warning, she carved a name. Her own. Weeks later, a new team arrived, searching for Evelyn's expedition. They found no trace of them, only their abandoned camp and research notes. Yet, the forest felt heavier, darker. A lone tree stood where no tree had been before. Its bark bore the vague imprint of a human face, its twisted mouth frozen in a silent scream. The village remained silent, knowing the forest had claimed more souls. The whispers never ceased. Travelers still went missing, and deep in the heart of Blackthorn Forest, the growth continued, waiting for the next visitor to listen too closely. The whispers would never stop. They only grew louder.